From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you, and here's what's ahead. K-State's Peter Tomlinson on two topics: a new K-State project which will study the carbon intensity of grain sorghum production on a field-wide basis, that as a determinant of sorghum's value as a feedstock for ethanol production. And he'll talk about new information his research has generated on putting a crop nutrient value on livestock waste. Then K-State's LaVell Winsor and Reid put out a reminder about the upcoming informational sessions on risk management skills for Kansas women in agriculture. Those start next week. And on this week's edition of Milk Lines, K-State's Mike Brouk will talk about pre-fresh cow care during harshly cold winter weather. All that coming up on this Agriculture Today. Welcome once more to another Agriculture Today. Kansas State University's Department of Agronomy is now involved in a new project that's being sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy, and it ropes in one of our key crops grown here in the state of Kansas, grain sorghum. To fill us in on what the project is about and what the hopeful consequences of it will be, Peter Tomlinson, environmental quality agronomist at Kansas State University. Of course, when we say grain sorghum, that piques the attention of many a producer out there on many fronts. But in this case, you're looking at sorghum as a biofuels resource, ethanol, if you will, right?
Correct. So the goal of this project is to collect crop production data at the farm level to understand what all the inputs are, as well as the carbon stocks in the soil and the greenhouse gas emissions that come out of sorghum production. And so this project, the Kansas State team is myself, Lucas Haig, our Northwest area agronomist, and Eduardo Santos, our micrometeorologist in the agronomy department. And the work is being done north of Colby. You know, it's critical and highlights the importance of having our research and extension centers across the state, as having somebody in the region with those regional connections is critical to the success of this work. We are collaborating with a local producer, and this isn't small plot research. We have instrumented a field that's over 80 acres. We've currently got this year 81 acres instrumented, and when I say that, it means we've got a tower in the center of the field that has instrumentation to collect soil moisture, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane emissions, as well as different readings on the growing crop, on to understand, how the crop is performing throughout the year. And then in addition to that, we collect soil samples throughout the growing season. We collect plant and soil samples at V5, so vegetative growth stage 5, flowering, and then at maturity, which will allow us to understand how the crop is utilizing the nutrients in the soil. And the ultimate goal is to have a very comprehensive data set that can be used in calculating the carbon intensity value of grain sorghum. And the carbon intensity value is really critical for grain sorghum producers when they go to market that grain sorghum into the ethanol market.
That's the yardstick by which they're compensated, isn't it?
Can be. It can be. It's certainly on the horizon that the ethanol industry will be looking at the carbon intensity score at the farm level. And so having regionally, appropriate data is critical to our, grain sorghum producers and grain sorghum production in the southern and central plains.
Peter, is this the first time that the full carbon footprint, to put it that way, of grain sorghum has been so thoroughly measured and studied?
I believe it is. I mean, there's been, some work done. I've been involved with Lucas on some plot-based work here in the state. There's been work done in Oklahoma and Texas on the plot level, but that's small plot. To have all of this all the layers of instrumentation, as well as the field sampling work. This will be one of the most comprehensive data sets, and this project is led out of Oklahoma State. So we had sites this year and for the next 2 years in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas.
Do you have any preconceived notions of what that data is going to say?
I think it's going to highlight that we have an efficient grain sorghum production system. One of the key drivers, say, behind nitrous oxide emissions is moisture, and having sufficient moisture for soil to have portions within the soil that are anaerobic, where denitrification can occur. And some of the plot work that we've been doing in recent years, we've been able to document low nitrous oxide emission rates, and I think this study is going to confirm that. We'll be able to use this data, moving forward to develop production models and better understand the grain sorghum production system.
And in the ultimate, potentially open wider the marketing opportunity for sorghum as a biofuels feedstock.
Correct. And hopefully provide our producers with, the opportunity to gain some additional value in the grain sorghum that they are selling into the ethanol market.
Once again, on the strength of a U.S. Department of Energy grant, Peter and his associates at K-State and elsewhere in the Central Plains, as it's a multi-state project, will be looking into the carbon intensity of grain sorghum production and the ultimate value of that sorghum in the ethanol market. Well, switching gears now. Here we are into the new year, and still a prime concern and thought among you crop growers is how you'll go about your crop fertility management in the wake of these extraordinarily high commercial fertilizer prices. You know what's happened here the last few months or so as that market has skyrocketed. Well, if you have resources from livestock production, you might be able to employ livestock manure, Peter, as a viable resource to supplement, at least, commercial fertilizer utilization. And this is an opportunity waiting, you think?
I do feel that manure certainly has a place in many of our fertility programs across the state, whether it's from feedlot or, say, poultry production. I know a number of producers in the state that are buying in poultry litter from Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. That manure is a resource that can fit well into a fertility program. We've done some work looking at, what sort of application rates we need to shoot for. In terms of poultry litter, we're looking at about 2 tons to the acre for most of our cropping systems, and that'll meet the phosphorus requirements in many cases for 2 years.
That's a primary source.
Yeah, it's a good source of phosphorus, and if we manage it based on phosphorus, we reduce the risk of challenges around water quality and phosphorus runoff. When we think about trying to meet all of our fertility needs with manure, if we calculate the application rate based on nitrogen, we're going to add phosphorus in excess. Now, in the short term, that may not be an issue, but if manure is used long term, it really does present a water quality challenge. And from the economic standpoint, in my look at it, it just doesn't make sense. Let's utilize it to meet our phosphorus need and then supplement with additional nitrogen. So, I've looked at both fresh feedlot manure and poultry litter. Fresh feedlot manure in the first year is going to have a value of about $16 per ton, and that's based on the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in that manure. When we look at what is the residual or the nitrogen, the phosphorus that's going to be mineralized in the next 2 years after application, it raises that value to about $28 a ton. Feedlot manure is about a quarter of the value of, say, poultry litter. So when we look at the value of poultry litter in that first year, we're about $65 a ton. And these numbers were based on fertilizer prices on the 10th of November. So they certainly have gone up since then. But I use for poultry litter, a good rule of thumb is about $100 a ton, and that held true. When we look at the first year plus, residual nutrients that come available in the following years, we're at $110 a ton. So if you can get that purchased, whether it's feedlot or poultry litter, for something less than that plus freight, I think you're ahead of the game in terms of bringing those critical nutrients into your crop production system. What these calculations don't take into account are the micronutrients that come through in the manure, the organic matter that you're adding back to your crop production system.
But you are definitely money ahead compared to commercial fertilizer costs right now by a fair margin.
Yes. Again, it all comes down to what you can get that manure purchased for. But yes, the prices I've been hearing, you would be money ahead, incorporating manure into your fertility program. We did a e-update on November 18th that looked at the value of poultry litter, and we'll be putting some information out in the new year on the value of other manure types.
Excellent. Do look into the information that Peter and his colleagues have pulled together on the value of that manure from the analysis standpoint, from the breakout on nutrient content. You can use that as a guideline for figuring out how to make that work for your operation and what you'll save. Peter, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
He's an environmental quality agronomist, K-State Research and Extension. That's Peter Tomlinson with us. We'll be back with more for you in a few moments on Agriculture Today. Agriculture Today is back now, and to remind once again about a series of educational and informational opportunities for women in agriculture, but really anybody involved in the agricultural enterprise, coming up quite soon with a deadline for participating looming. These are called the Risk Management Skills for Kansas Women in Agriculture workshops. And joining us once more to fill us in and to remind us of how these can be valuable to those who would be interested, LaVell Winsor from the Farm Analyst Program at K-State and K-State agricultural economist Robin Reid. Robin, just to reset the table here on these, this concept was launched, a couple of years back, and it met with resounding success, hence the encore.
Absolutely. So we conducted this program in 2020 before the pandemic hit for the first time, and we covered financial skills for women in agriculture with that series. And it was a 4-part series, just like the one we're doing now. And we had overwhelming success and turnout and feedback from our participants. We had 685 participants that year with 32 sites across Kansas hosting the program. And we had a lot of requests to bring this program back. And obviously last year was very challenging during the pandemic. And although we are still in it, obviously, and having challenges as well, we think this program is a good delivery option, being that it is still in local communities, even though half of the educational material is coming from us here at K-State. So it's kind of a unique hybrid program. And again, we are extremely excited to be bringing it back this year.
Just to explain about the structure a little more here, Robin, again, you have 4 sessions plus an optional session, but these will be taken in at those locations locally, emanating from K-State, and there'll be a local flavor to the programs themselves, right?
Yeah, so how it works is LaVell and I, each session, there's 4 sessions with a 5th optional one covering risk management for cow-calf operations. The first 4 have more of a cropland focus, but we are going to be broadcasting from campus, but the participants come to local host sites across Kansas. And this year we have 36 of those. So hopefully there's a site quite close to everybody that wants to participate. But how that works is at that local host site, you start with dinner at 5:30 and then the program starts at 6. So you don't have to make dinner that night. And then we go ahead and do the main topic as a broadcast from campus, but at your local site, we have facilitated hands-on activities each night. Some of the nights there's local speakers that'll be there in person talking about different topics. And a lot of the value of this program is the discussion that happens between the participants at that local site around the topics that we're talking about. And that a lot of the feedback we got 2 years ago was just how valuable it was to be in person and talking about the topic amongst other local people from your area, local participants. And so that's why we wanted to bring that program back in the same structure it was 2 years ago.
Now, LaVell, all is oriented around risk management, and there is a value in developing skills in this area, even though commodity prices are pretty firm to strong right now, so the economic perils may not be as much as they once were in previous years. Why is this important?
Yeah, and you're right, Eric. We are in good commodity prices. However, we have recognized that input prices are just extremely high. And so one can definitely make the argument that risk management is as important as ever in this higher price environment, but also the very high input price, because there's so much at risk if we don't execute well on our risk management plan. And so really, we think that this program focusing on the risk management may be as important as it has ever been, because we do have potential for some nice profitability, but only if we make those decisions and realize what the risk is that's on the table at this point.
To that end, then, LaVell, if you would tick through the specific themes that will be played up at each of these sessions. They are Wednesday evening sessions, to remind once again, starting Wednesday, January the 12th. But what's on the docket for each?
Yes. So as you said, starting January 12th, we will focus on enterprise budgets. And again, as Robin had said, each one of these topics will have a hands-on activity that you will do at your location, at your host site with the other participants, and then have that activity to be able to take home and then create your own plan on your own farm that following week. So the first night is going to be focused on enterprise budgets. The second night will be January 19th, focused on crop insurance. And then there'll be a local speaker focusing on stress and resiliency. The third night will be January 26th, focused on crop marketing. And the local topic will be family communication. And then the fourth night will be February 2nd, focused on farm bill programs. And we will have a special speaker that evening as well. And then there will be an optional fifth session that will be focused on beef, cow, calf risk management. And so that night will be all about the cow-calf side of things, focused on enterprise budgets, cattle marketing, and then cow-calf insurance options.
Those are the themes to be talked up at these. And with the exception, Robin, of the optional session for beef, cow, calf risk management, you and LaVell and the other organizers would like to see participants take part in all four of the sessions. They are rather interconnected then.
Absolutely. We do ask participants or require participants to sign up for all four of the first sessions, the fifth one being optional, that they can add that to their sessions or even do that session as a standalone. But yes, they really build upon each other. To evaluate your cost of production with an enterprise budget is really setting yourself up for making good crop insurance decisions and marketing decisions, and then also making those farm bill program decisions between ARC and PLC by knowing your cost of production, knowing input costs and potential profitability. So we really want participants to participate every single night of the series, because we're going to be building on each topic as we go.
And that local networking contributes heavily to the success potential of each of these then.
Right. And what LaVell was saying too, those local hands-on activities, our goal is with that is we're not just talking about risk management. We are having participants work with a case farm to apply risk management. So making crop insurance decisions, going through an enterprise budget, deciding on some marketing, forward contracting kind of things throughout the fictitious marketing year. And so by doing these hands-on activities, discussing with the local group that you're part of, that really sets the participant up to go home and say, how can I apply what I learned here to my own operation? So again, not just talking about it, but doing it and practicing it and making sure these skills that we're talking about apply to real farm situations.
And one very finer point, but it's worth mentioning, it's billed, Robin, as Women in Agriculture Forum, but it's for anybody interested, isn't it?
Absolutely. So to be able to put on this program, we received a grant through the Risk Management Education USDA program, and it was specifically tagged for a Women in Ag event. But we do not discriminate for any reason. So we absolutely encourage participants of all kinds to come to our program and participate.
Very well. LaVell, if you would do the honors of going over the registration details, the fee, and the timeline.
Yes, so we have extended the early bird registration to Friday, January 7th. And if you register by Friday, the registration fee is $50. If it's after Friday, then the registration will be $75. That covers the first 4 nights. If you want to attend the 5th night that is focused on the cattle side, if you register for that 5th night along with the first 4 nights, it will be an additional $10, so a grand total of $60. Or if you're only interested in that 5th night optional session, it's $15 just for that session. You can go to agmanager.info to register. On the Ag Manager website, if you click on the events tab, you will see this program, the risk management program, just at the very top of that. And there's a registration link there. From that registration link, you'll see all of the 36 locations. Just sign up for the location that is most convenient for you.
They are well dispersed all throughout Kansas. Very easy to go through the registration process, but you're urged to do so as soon as possible. agmanager.info. Click on the link to the series, and it's as easy as following the directions from there. Again, this series begins a week from tomorrow, January the 12th, and will continue subsequent Wednesdays right through February the 2nd, plus the additional session for cow-calf producers on February the 23rd. And LaVell, Robin, good luck with this. Thank you once again for letting us know about it.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
And what we're talking about here, the 2022 K-State Risk Management Skills for Kansas Women in Agriculture series. K-State's LaVell Winsor and Robin Reid from the Agricultural Economics Department. Do check into it at agmanager.info right away. And we'll be back with more for you on this Agriculture Today. Topping off this Tuesday edition of Agriculture Today, it's our weekly segment for you dairy producers called Milk Lines. And this week, K-State Research and Extension dairy specialist Mike Brouk gets into one of the really important aspects of seasonal dairy cow care. Mike?
Today I'd like to visit with our Kansas dairy farmers concerning some very critical things that you need to consider as you approach winter and your animals that are just pretty fresh. You know, wintertime is always a challenge for us here in Kansas, especially when we get the cold weather because of the negative impact that has on the teat ends of our dairy cattle. And one of the most important times to really be concerned about this is the animals that are just prior to freshening. Really that last week or so before they freshen, as they start to develop colostrum in their udder, and the udder starts to extend, particularly in heifers. If we get any edema, we get very poor circulation in the teat, and especially in the teat ends. So with cold weather, we're much more susceptible to freezing and other damage to those skin cells. So what are some things that you can do to minimize the impact that this might have during extremely cold weather that we'll likely face here in the next few weeks? Number 1, plenty of clean, dry bedding. Spend some extra money on straw and make sure you have adequate windbreaks around these animals. Many times we can have excellent bedding down, but if we do not have protection from wind when they stand up and when they head to the feed bunk or to the water, we can have issues with frozen teat ends just due to the wind chill that they experience during that short period of time. So keeping ahead of bedding is sometimes another problem that we have. You might start out this week with pretty decent bedding down for those animals, but With cold weather usually comes other challenges and other responsibilities. Do we actually have enough labor on the farm to rebed those animals when it's actually needed? Many times, particularly if we get heavy snowfall, we're behind on other things, and sometimes this area can be left to last. It really should be one of the first areas we get taken care of after the storm. Again, these animals are highly susceptible to damage to the teat end if we have extremely cold weather and they do not have plenty of clean, dry bedding. Some other things you might consider. I know sometimes when margins are tight, we put off some maintenance in the milking parlor. Need to make sure that our pulsator maintenance and teat liner maintenance is really up to snuff and that we've completed that on the regular schedule. Again, wintertime is a difficult challenge for teat ends, and making sure that our parlor is up to date on maintenance is very important in maintaining a system that will milk cows efficiently without causing damage to the teat ends. This is Mike Brouk with K-State Research and Extension.
All right, Mike, many thanks to you. Before we go today, I want to pass along a couple of items for you beef cattle producers. K-State's annual series of calving schools is underway, and there are sessions set for this week and next at 4 locations in the state. Again, these outline overall calving management, including the stages of the normal calving process, and there will be advice on handling difficult calving situations, of course. These schools are led by K-State beef veterinarian A.J. Tarpoff. The next calving school is tomorrow, January the 5th, at Colby. This coming Thursday, January the 6th, then, a school in Lakin. Looking to next week, then, the 11th of January, at Fairview, and then a session set for Thursday, January the 13th, at McPherson. Be sure to RSVP with the local extension offices hosting these beef calving schools over the coming week plus. And bull management will be one of the topics for the 2022 K-State Winter Ranch Management Series at 4 locations across the state. All of these take place in February the 8th at Hayes, February the 10th, Council Grove, the 15th of February at Olsburg, and February the 24th at Oakley. Again, contact the host county extension offices to RSVP for one of these 4 K-State Winter Ranch Management sessions. And with that, our time's away once again. Thanks to you for tuning in, and please rejoin us here tomorrow. Until then, Eric Atkinson bidding you a good day for Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.